Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, today we're going to be tackling something that you might not even realize is even happening.
Yeah,
The hidden struggles of adults with autism.
right.
We tend to focus on the outward signs, but what about the inner world? To help us unpack all of this, we're turning to a website called Cheap ABA.
Okay.
It's a treasure trove of resources for understanding and supporting autistic adults.
And what I think is so fascinating about this website is how much they focus on the emotional toll that comes with, navigating a world that's not always built for neurodiversity.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the mask of happiness?
You know, it rings a bell, but I'm not sure I fully grasp the concept.
Well, imagine feeling this constant pressure to project an image of contentment, even when you're battling a storm of emotions inside.
Oh, wow.
It's like wearing a mask that hides your true feelings, to fit in, to avoid judgment, or to try and connect with others who might not understand your experience.
Wow, that sounds incredibly draining.
Yeah.
I mean, we all put on a brave face sometimes, but to do it constantly,
Mhm.
especially in situations that are already challenging for autistic individuals,
Right.
that must be exhausting.
It is.
And the website actually talks about how this constant masking can make it harder to even recognize what's going on emotionally.
Exactly. It's like trying to read a map through a fogged up window.
Hmm.
The Cheap ABA website dives into 3 specific emotional states
Okay.
that are often intertwined and difficult to separate, especially for autistic adults.
Okay.
Apathy, anhedonia, and depression.
Okay, let's break those down.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
What is apathy in this context?
So think of it as a lack of interest or concern for things that most people would find, important or enjoyable.
Right.
It's not necessarily sadness, but more like a sense of detachment,
Hmm.
a flatness of affect.
Yep.
And it can almost be like a defense mechanism against social exhaustion.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, an autistic adult might mask their true feelings so often that they eventually start to feel apathetic
Yeah.
as a way to protect themselves from the constant effort of trying to fit in.
You're exactly right. Now, anhedonia is a bit different.
Okay.
It's the inability to experience pleasure even from activities that used to bring joy.
Wow.
Imagine your favorite song no longer moves you, or a beloved hobby feels empty and meaningless.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like the ability to feel joy has been switched off.
Yeah.
So it's not just that you don't care, it's that you can't feel the positive emotions even if you wanted to.
That's a really insightful way to put it. And then there's depression, which many people are familiar with, but it can take on a different dimension when combined with the challenges of autism.
Right. Depression is more than just feeling sad. It's that heavy, pervasive feeling of hopelessness
Yes.
and helplessness that can seep into every aspect of your life.
Yes.
It makes sense that for someone already struggling with social interaction and the pressure to mask their emotions, depression could hit even harder.
Absolutely. And what's so crucial here is recognizing that these 3 emotional states, apathy, anhedonia, and depression, can often coexist
Right.
and intertwine, making it even more difficult to untangle and address.
Okay, so we've got this complex web of emotions all potentially hidden beneath the mask of happiness.
Right.
It makes you wonder, why are autistic adults more prone to these challenges in the first place?
Well, it's a combination of factors. There are certainly genetic predispositions at play,
Hmm.
but the environment plays a huge role too. Think about the constant pressure to conform to societal expectations that don't always accommodate neurodiversity.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? You're constantly being told you're doing it wrong, you need to be more like this, when in reality, you're just being your authentic self.
Exactly.
And that must be incredibly frustrating.
Exactly. And this ties directly into the social difficulties that many autistic adults experience.
Hmm.
Imagine trying to navigate a world where communication and social cues feel like a foreign language.
Right.
Misunderstandings are common,
Right.
and that can lead to feelings of rejection and isolation.
Which can then fuel those feelings of apathy, anhedonia, or depression. It's like a vicious cycle.
Precisely. The more you struggle to connect, the more pressure you feel to mask, and the deeper those feelings of isolation become.
Wow, this is really heavy stuff.
Yeah.
I can already see how understanding this concept of the mask of happiness is crucial to supporting autistic adults.
Absolutely. Recognizing the hidden struggles beneath the surface is the first step towards creating a more empathetic and supportive environment.
Okay, now I'm even more curious to learn what we can do to help break down these barriers.
Well, the good news is Cheap ABA outlines some really practical strategies, but we'll dive into those after a quick break.
All right, I'm ready to learn about those strategies for breaking down the mask of happiness and creating a more supportive environment for autistic adults.
Okay.
Where do we even begin?
Well, the Cheap ABA website emphasizes three key approaches:
Okay.
acceptance, understanding, and support.
Mm.
It all starts with acceptance.
Acceptance. That sounds simple enough, but what does it really look like when we're talking about autism?
It's about recognizing autism as a different way of experiencing the world,
Hmm.
not as something broken that needs to be fixed. It's about challenging that deep-seated societal notion
Yeah.
that there's only one right way to be, one right way to think, one right way to interact.
I think we often get caught up in this idea of normal versus abnormal,
Mm.
and it creates this pressure to conform, to fit in.
Yeah,
But what if we embrace the idea that everyone experiences the world differently? What if we celebrated neurodiversity instead of trying to erase it?
exactly. And that's what true acceptance is all about. It's about appreciating the unique strengths and talents that autistic individuals bring to the table. Yeah.
It's about recognizing that their differences are not deficits.
So acceptance is about shifting our mindset,
Yeah,
but it also needs to be followed by action, right? And that's where understanding comes in.
absolutely. Acceptance without understanding is just lip service.
Right.
We need to be proactive in seeking out knowledge about autism, its impact on emotional well-being, the specific challenges that autistic adults face.
And this isn't just about reading a few articles or watching a documentary. It's
Yeah.
about engaging in ongoing learning,
Yes,
challenging our own biases, and being open to different perspectives.
precisely. It's about listening to autistic voices,
Hmm.
learning from their experiences, and letting go of any preconceived notions we might have.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me on the Cheap ABA website was their emphasis on listening, especially when it comes to offering support.
Yes, because true support begins with empathy and validation.
Hmm.
It's about being present for someone, actively listening to what they're going through and acknowledging their feelings without judgment or trying to fix them. It's about saying, I hear you, I see you, I'm here for you. And for someone who's so used to feeling misunderstood, that kind of validation can be incredibly powerful.
It can be truly transformative. It's about creating a safe space where they can let down their guard, be their authentic selves, and know that they'll be met with compassion and understanding.
So we've got acceptance, understanding, and support.
Right.
But how do we actually put these ideas into practice? What are some tangible things we can do to make a difference?
Well, think about the spaces you occupy, your workplace, your community, your family.
Okay.
How can you advocate for more inclusive environments?
For example, if I'm in a meeting at work, I can be mindful of sensory overload and advocate for breaks or quieter spaces if needed.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can suggest alternative communication methods for team members who might struggle with traditional verbal communication.
Those are great examples. It's about being aware of the potential challenges that autistic individuals might face and being proactive in creating accommodations.
What about in social situations? How can we be more supportive of autistic adults who might be struggling with social interaction?
It starts with being patient and understanding. Don't assume that someone who's quiet or doesn't make eye contact is being rude or disengaged.
Okay.
They might be processing information differently or feeling overwhelmed by the social environment.
That's a good reminder. It's so easy to jump to conclusions based on our own social norms, but we need to be more mindful of the fact that those norms might not apply to everyone.
Exactly. And if you're unsure about something, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah,
A simple, is there anything I can do to make this situation more comfortable for you, can go a long way.
I love that. It's about open communication and a willingness to learn and adapt. And I think that leads us to the bigger picture.
Yes.
How do we create a more accepting and supportive society for autistic adults?
Well, it starts with education and awareness. The more we can dispel myths and stereotypes about autism, the better equipped we'll be to create a more inclusive world.
And it's not just about awareness. It's about advocating for systemic change.
Yes. Yeah.
We need to ensure that autistic adults have access to the resources and support they need to thrive.
Absolutely. We need to advocate for better access to healthcare education and employment opportunities. We need to create environments that celebrate neurodiversity and value the unique contributions of autistic individuals.
This is all so inspiring, but I have to admit it also feels a bit overwhelming. Where do we even begin to tackle such a huge issue?
Remember, change starts with small steps. You don't have to solve everything overnight. Focus on the things you can control.
Like educating myself, being more mindful in my interactions with others, and advocating for change in my own circles of influence.
Exactly. Every act of kindness, every conversation, every voice raised in support can make a difference.
As we're talking, I'm thinking about all the autistic adults out there who are struggling silently behind that mask of happiness. What message would you want them to hear?
I would want them to know that they are not alone, that their experiences are valid, that their struggles are real, and it's okay to not be okay.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I hope that by having these conversations, we can help create a world where autistic adults feel seen, heard, and supported for who they truly are.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because when we strip away the masks, when we embrace neurodiversity and create a culture of acceptance, we all benefit.
Well said. This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I'm feeling so inspired to learn more and to do my part in creating a more inclusive world.
And remember, the Cheap ABA website is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to deepen their understanding and become a better ally.
I'm definitely going to check it out. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts on this topic. What's one key takeaway you'd like our listener to ponder as we end this deep dive?
As we've been talking about the mask of happiness and the struggles that autistic adults face, one thing keeps coming back to me.
Hmm.
We've talked about how important acceptance and understanding are, but it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think about the sheer energy it takes to constantly monitor your behavior,
Yeah.
suppress your natural impulses,
Right.
and try and fit into a world that doesn't quite understand you.
Yeah.
It's like running a marathon every single day just to exist in social spaces.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. That's exhausting, just thinking about it.
Exactly. So my question for you and for our listener is this. What if we shifted our focus from trying to change autistic individuals to changing the environments they have to navigate?
That's a powerful reframing.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, you need to learn to make more eye contact or you need to be more expressive,
Right.
we should be asking, how can we create spaces where eye contact isn't mandatory for connection and where different forms of expression are valued?
You got it. It's about celebrating neurodiversity, not just tolerating it.
Right.
Imagine a world where sensory sensitivities are accommodated not as special favors, but as standard practice.
Yeah.
A world where workplaces offer flexible communication styles, and social gatherings provide quiet spaces for those who need them.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It would be so liberating for autistic adults to be able to drop the mask, to just be themselves without fear of judgment or the pressure to conform.
It wouldn't just be liberating for autistic individuals, it would be a gift to all of us.
Yeah.
Think of the creativity, the innovation, the unique perspectives that would flourish when we stop trying to force everyone into the same mold.
I'm feeling so inspired by this vision. It's a reminder that creating a more inclusive world isn't just about doing the right thing. It's about unlocking the full potential of humanity.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that our differences are not weaknesses, they're strengths. And when we embrace those strengths, everyone wins.
Well, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. I've learned so much about the hidden struggles of autistic adults, and I'm feeling empowered to be a better ally.
I'm so glad to hear that. Remember, even small actions can make a big difference. Educate yourself, listen with an open heart, and speak up for what's right.
And don't forget the Cheap ABA website is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to learn more and get involved.
It's a great starting point for becoming a more informed and compassionate member of our community.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
It's been a truly enriching conversation.
And remember, a world that embraces neurodiversity is a world that benefits everyone.
Beautifully said. That's a wrap on our deep dive into the mask of happiness and the hidden struggles of autistic adults. We hope you learned something new and are feeling inspired to make a difference. Until next time, keep diving deep.